Good evening, guys. You know what time it is. It's time for tactics. Hey, so welcome back to the Tactics of Trav channel where we go through all things tactical when it comes to chess. So I want to bring to you this game. It's actually from one of our loyal subscribers, James. James Welch, a great player, local player here in the Sioux Falls area, high school kid. He's a really strong player, guys. Like, he doesn't get to play in enough USCF tournaments. So I kind of feel bad for him because if he was given the opportunity to play in more USCF tournaments, or if he just traveled more, his rating would be a lot higher than what it is. So I think his USCF rating is in the 1300s, but you guys saw my video on that. Like, 1300s are so tough right now. He is also in the Chess for Life system, which in Sioux Falls is run by a real strong national master named Elliot Neff, who runs the Chess for Life magazine. And a lot of you from the West Coast might know him. But he lives here in the Sioux Falls area now. But anyway, to make a long story shorter, he is part of that system. A lot of those kids are in that system, and it's a really strong system. So a lot of these like 1200s and 1300s that are in the Chess for Life system are probably really more like 1600s and even potentially 1700, 1800 rated level. So real strong players. But we played on chess.com the other day, and James likes to give me a hard time because I like to give the Carol Can a hard time, the Carol Can't. And so, of course, he's playing white. I'm playing black. This is game 30. He plays the Carol Can't from the white side. So I'm like, oh, what are you doing? Come on. You're just giving me a hard time here. So C3, I played knight F6. This is game 30 on chess.com. He plays D4. So I'm like, okay, you love the Carol Can so much, you got to play it on the white side. But this is looking like a London system so far, which is another one of those openings when someone plays it. We do not advise playing that on the Tactics with Trav channel, guys. Like, I know it's a solid opening. It's just not our flavor. Nothing wrong with it. Very solid opening. So Magnus plays it. A lot of GMs play it. So I'm just giving it a hard time because it's not our style. But after D4, I play G6. So we're going to go about this the King's Indian attack way, which is the King's Indian defense. He plays bishop to F4, London player style. I go bishop to G7, knight F3, D6. So for those of you that know the King's Indian defense, that's what I'm playing. I like to play sharp tactical positions, creative, attacking, interesting chess. So he plays E3, very solid, very London system-esque castles, and he goes A4. Knight BD7, so pretty much the exact same thing that I like to play as white sometimes at the King's Indian attack. However, there's going to be another video coming out next week, which is going to show why I need to diversify my game, because if you watch my YouTube channel, you can learn what it is that I play. So I got to add some more openings and defenses to my repertoire so I'm not so predictable. He plays bishop to E2. And I play knight to H5. So the idea here, guys, is to attack the bishop, take it out. I want to press E5 and then potentially F5. So I know that with knight to H5, he's thinking to draw back to G3, and if knight takes G3, he's going to get an open H file with H takes G3, and he's probably not going to castle because he can use that H file with his rook. So I know that he knows that I'm trying to take his bishop, and he's just waiting for me to do it, but he's going to draw back to G3. So he does, and I take it anyway because I just wanted to have this open diagonal for my bishop so I could press E5 and F5. And I wasn't overly concerned about the open H file. I think I can stop it and press H5 and just blunt it out. He takes, H takes G3. E5. And he pushes D5 here. So very similar to like the King's Indian attack when we play that as white. What I want to do is press F5 and just claim the central space here, and then I can develop comfortably. So I play F5. He plays knight A3 with the idea of going to c4, and then that makes sense as to why he pressed a4, because he's trying to keep me from pressing b5 and kicking his knight off of c4. I played knight to c5 with the idea that if he plays b4 to kick my knight, I can centralize it with knight to e4. That's a good square for my knight. So that's what I was hoping for. He plays king or queen to c2. Develop bishop to d7, which this b5 square is looking like there's going to be some conflict. So there's going to be something that's going to go on here just based on how things are shaping up here on the queen side. He goes knight to c4 now. And pause your videos here, guys. What's an interesting move that I could play as black that could really ignite this position? And we just kind of touched on it. All right, you ready? So b5 is an interesting move. It's not considered the best move, but it's a move, and it's more of a dubious move. But the idea is if b5, a takes b5, bishop takes b5, with somewhat of a pin on the knight, because if the knight moves, we can take the bishop. But there's some complications here, guys. So let's try to calculate deep here. If b5, a takes b5, bishop takes b5, what would be an interesting move for white? And remember, I'm not making any moves here, so you got to calculate this all in your head. This is just how it is in over the board tournament games. An interesting move for white, if that sequence were to occur, is knight on c takes e5, which I thought was a brilliant move, because let's calculate that from the top. b5, a takes b5, bishop takes b5, knight on c takes e5. And the idea is if bishop takes e2, so I do take his light squared bishop on e2, he has the in-between move in zwischenzug, knight to c6, which would be a cool idea, because now I'd have to move my queen because it's a higher priority attack, right? If you've seen chess lesson number 10 on the zwischenzug, the power of the zwischenzug, it's a really cool move, because knight c6 would force me to move my queen, right? So I'd have to move like queen d7, and then he can win two pieces. So then he wins with queen takes retaking on e2. So that is kind of what we're looking at here. That's kind of what I'm thinking, and that's what he's thinking, because I played b5. He took a takes b5, and I took bishop takes b5. So just like we spoke about, guys, and my opponent, James, took a couple minutes here, and this is game 30, so I would say he probably took a good 2.5, 3 minutes here, a deep think, and played the move that I was a little bit wary of. Knight c takes e5. Super cool move, right? Well, it turns out when you run it through Stockfish at the end of the game, this is no good, and I'll explain it. So, shame on knight c takes e5. Shame on that move. So, shame on me as well for not seeing why this is actually a blunder. So, like I explained, knight c takes e5, bishop takes e2, knight e5 to c6 with the in-between move attacking my queen, queen d7, and queen takes e2. But here's the thing. That's not actually the line to debunk this move. That's not why it's a blunder. The reason why knight c takes e5 is a blunder is because bishop takes e2, and if knight to c6, attacking my queen, I counter his in-between move, his zwischenzug, with a desperado tactic. So I would go bishop to d3, exclam, because now if you take my queen, I take your queen. So I missed it and he missed it. So just an interesting game, because very, very tactical here, guys, because if you're going to play this way, and that's what we aim to do on the Tactics with Trav channel, is to play creative, interesting, attacking chess. We don't play boring chess here. I mean, you got to see these things, and that's what we're aiming for. So shame on me for not seeing this, because after knight c takes e5, I would have been way ahead here. And check out these lines. Bishop takes e2, knight c6, queen to d7. So if queen d7, then queen takes e2. That's what he and I were both thinking. But after knight to c6, if instead I played bishop to d3, which Stockfish called a great move, then queen to d1 would be white's best response, followed by queen to f6, and black is up -3 points. So that's that line. There's another line. So if after bishop d3 with my desperado tactic, you take my queen, I take your queen, then he has, if he goes down this path and goes knight takes d8, then I have bishop takes c2. Black is up -3.54. So it's even worse for white if he takes my queen and I take his queen, which is the reason why Stockfish suggests going queen d1. So very tactical, guys. Like, this is how we play on the Tactics with Trav channel. So you really, like, this is what we aim for. So I love the way James is playing. He's been a loyal subscriber of mine. He's also a local kid, so I wish him the best. But I love the way he plays, guys, and he gives me fits because he plays like me. So, but shame on me for not saying this. So after that, sadly, I didn't see the desperado tactic of bishop to d3. So I instead played like a normal person, and I just took the knight with d takes e5, trying to play it safe. And so I missed it. What I was thinking here was after this, he takes my bishop, which is what he does. And after that, like, I have two strong center pawns, and I can win a pawn back with queen takes d5, which is what I do. And now he can hit my queen with tempo. So rook to d1, queen to e4 is the best move here. And if queen takes e4, I have f takes e4 attacking the knight. But my pawns are doubled, so I'm not a huge fan. But I don't have to take with the pawn. I can also take with the knight, which is obviously a much more positionally sound move. So after he takes the queen, I don't take with the pawn because that'd be bad because it doubles my pawns. I take with the knight. He goes bishop to c4 check. I go king to h8. Now, one thing to be cognizant of here, guys, that I'm not a huge fan of right now is knight to g5 looks real dangerous because he's got two attackers on my h7 pawn, and my king can't go to g8 because he just took my diagonal away with this light squared bishop. So it's looking a little bit suspicious here on my king side. But he goes knight to h4. And so what he's thinking here, guys, is if knight h4, he can just win the pawn because my h7 pawn is pinned. So he's planning knight takes g6. So knight takes g6, I can't take back with the h7 pawn because it's pinned by his h1 rook. So instead I have to defend the g6 pawn, so I play rook to f6. He goes rook to d7, great fundamental positional move. Rook's on the 7th, usually a good idea. If you're playing black, rook on the 2nd. So I don't like his rook there. I need to make it move. So I played I played g5, trying to kick the white knight. Now he goes knight f3. And I played rook to d6. So pause your videos here, guys. You saw a move that I could have won with earlier in calculating that sequence deeply. Now, what's a move here for white, and calculate it through, that white could take a major advantage here? So I'll give you some time here to calculate these sequences, or this one sequence. All right, you ready? So rook to d6 is a blunder, guys. Shame on rook d6. Shame on that move. So it is not good because now that I went rook d6, if white sees it, because I didn't see it, he has this. Knight takes e5. Now, if rook were to take on d7, if I were to just take his rook, then he has knight to g6 checkmate, because my pawn on h7 is pinned, and the g8 square is taken away by his light square bishop. So if instead, after knight takes e5, I go rook to f6 to defend the f7 square, because I would have to, because I'm going to get checkmated otherwise, then he can still play knight to f7 check, and then I'm going to have to take off the knight with rook takes f7. Then he plays rook takes f7, and white would be up plus 4.15 and clearly winning game here. So you saw where I could have won earlier. Now you're seeing where white could win here if he sees this. He doesn't see it though, and instead plays more of a normal move of rook takes d6. So, and that's what I was hoping for. This is what I was looking at too. So you cannot overlook these tactics, guys. There's so much room to improve on tactics and calculation. So c takes d6. And now bishop to d5 is what he plays, with somewhat of a bishop fork on my knight on e4 and my rook on a8. I play rook to b8. He takes my knight. F takes e4. Knight takes g5. With two attackers now on h7, and that's just not good. So instead of pushing h6, which I could have done, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to counterattack instead and create a different threat of rook takes b2, and then just threaten a cheesy skewer with rook to b1 and just get some counterplay going here on the queen side, because after I take that b2 pawn, which is really important, this a pawn is going to be it's isolated. It cannot be stopped by white's pawn. So I'm thinking here, I'm investing in the end game that this a7 pawn is going to pay dividends for me. So that's why I really want that b2 pawn. So he plays rook takes h7 check. Excuse me, I messed up on the sequence here, guys. So he actually it was my move. Rook takes b2 here, and now he can take on h7 check. So that's why I wanted the b2 pawn, and he wants my h7 pawn. I go king g8, and now he goes rook to h4, which I thought was interesting, because knowing how he plays, what I was thinking he was trying to do was go rook to g4 and take advantage of the positioning of my bishop and my king. So I need to move, and I can't move king to f7 because his knight cuts it off. So I need to proactively get my bishop out of the way so that he can't pin it to my king. So I went bishop to f6 here, and he goes, like I thought, rook to g4. Now I take the knight. He takes my bishop with check, and I go king f7 now. He goes back to g4, attacking my e4 pawn, and I can push d5 to protect it. Now he goes f3. And moving forward for the rest of the game, guys, we're like on move 30 or 31. These are all excellent moves. So to study your end game, watch how we play the end game, because there's a lot of good ideas that stem out of this. Now I take the pawn on g2. He takes this pawn here. I take back. He takes with the rook. King e6. Rook back to g4 to protect his pawn. a5. This a pawn I really like, that I think is going to pay me dividends. King to f1. I want to protect it, so I go rook to a2. Pushes e4. King d6. Rook to g6 check. King to c5. G4. So really good idea by him to push his G pawn in response to my A pawn threat, because at first glance, if you go back a couple moves, it doesn't look like white really has much here that's a threat, but because his pawns are disconnected, but he is creating this pass pawn. He has a pass pawn with the G pawn, and he can push this if I don't give it enough respect. So I go king to C4. He pushes it to G5. So now I got to worry about this G pawn and not think only about my ideas with the A pawn. I go king D3, because what I'm thinking here, guys, is there's a chance I can gain some time with king D3 and maybe potentially go king E3, king F3, gain time by threatening rook to A1 checkmate, but really to get my king over to G4, or attack the E4 pawn and get my rook eventually to G2 if his king moves away from protecting the G2 square. Because as it stands, I can't go rook to G2 because his king protects G2. Because you want to go rook behind the pawn in the rook and pawn endgames. He sees what I'm trying to do, so he goes rook to F6, cutting off the king, the black king, but also creating the squares that are needed for the G pawn to advance. So now I have to really be worried about this G pawn, because if I don't do something about it proactively, like he's gonna queen it. So the only way to really stop it is to go rook to H2, and after rook H2, he's got G6, and then I have rook to H8, and if G7, then I can block it with rook to G8. But that's really the only way I can stop this G pawn now. So I played rook to H2, and here's the time, by the way. So we're both getting pretty low on time. I have 2 minutes and 48 seconds here, and my opponent, James, has 2 minutes and 54 seconds. We're both getting somewhat low on time, but even despite the time, guys, we're both playing really strong moves. G6, rook to H8, rook behind the pawn for white. He goes rook to A6. I munch this pawn. King takes E4. He takes this pawn, which was my threat. Rook to G8. He tries to protect it, but I can put more attackers on it with king to F5. Now he gets his king into the game with king E2. I take off the G6 pawn. He takes it. I take back. And this game's looking very, very drawish. King to E3. King to F5. C4. King E6. Taking opposition with king E4. But it doesn't really matter because there's not enough here for either side. And he just checks me because it's a draw. So great game by my opponent. Good job. We played guys at a very high level. So I played at an 87% accuracy level. He played at 86.6. So he's quote unquote 1300 USCF, but he's a much stronger player than that. And there's a lot of those guys, not a lot, but a handful of them in Sioux Falls like that. So strong chess scene here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Good job, everybody. But hey, if you're seeing value out of these videos, guys, feel free, or I would encourage you to click on the link description for Buy Me a Coffee and get me 1 or 2 coffees. I could really use the caffeine after these kind of games. It just shows me that these videos are helping you as well. So appreciate your viewership, guys, and we'll see you on the next video, which, by the way, is going to be awesome because it's me crushing a 2000 USCF player that just happened this past weekend. Very strong, active player. And you guys saw my other video on being the 2053 player. Well, the difference is this is an active player. He's a young kid, so he's very, very strong. As you know, the young kids are really, really strong players, especially because they're so active. They play a lot of tournaments. But I'll show you what I did. It was very tactical, very cool. So anyway, guys, appreciate your viewership. See you on the next video.